I'm gonna go ahead and get started with my story. And my name is Nina, and just thought I would share what's been going on up here for many, many years, as long as I can remember. As a young girl, a little girl, I remember struggling with food. Struggling with, for instance, is someone in my family, if we would all have received a candy bar as a young child, other people in my family might have been able to take a couple bites of that and put it away and save it for a day or two, or maybe take a couple bites every day and stick it in their drawer or whatever. But not me. I remember being very young and never being able to save a candy bar or anything that had sweets to it. Any type of candy or cookie, or I just could not take one bite. And I always remember that commercial about the chips, you just can't eat one chip. Well, that's how I was with all types of food, basically, not just sweets. And I remember struggling and noticing that my desire for food was different than people in my families. There were 5 of us children, 2 boys and 3 girls, and with our mom and dad. And I remember loving comfort food, gravy and biscuits and mashed potatoes and the type of food that mom made, and I loved fried potatoes and really anything potato. And I'm still basically the same today. But I remember being young, and I was trying to remember back of how young I actually was when I first noticed that I think my eating habits were different. I would have to say probably around 9 years old. I started noticing that, like, my oldest sister was very, very thin, and my baby sister was very, very thin. And I was always the chunky. At the time, I used to think that I was just made heavier. I remember wrecking on a little mini bike when I was about 12. And the doctor told me that I was lucky that I was built with big bones, because I would have had a broken leg and probably arm after that accident. But all I had was to get stitches in my knee. So I kind of thought maybe, well, just maybe I am a big boned person, and I am built. I remember having a boyfriend when I was 15, and we were in a car, and I was in the front seat, he was driving, and a cousin of mine was in the back seat with his girlfriend. And I remember my cousin saying, "Man, Nina, you ought to have been a football player. You've got such broad shoulders for a woman." And I'm telling you, things like that people say to you, they stick with you. For people that have, maybe a mental disorder. I've suffered with depression my whole life, but that's stuck in my head, and now I'm 57 and it's still there. Just be careful what you say to people. You don't know how it's going to affect them. Instead of me going toward anorexia, I kind of probably went toward eating problems, from not eating to overeating. And I tell you, the only thing that probably saved my life as far as not purging food was I had a teacher in 4th grade, and her best friend was expecting a baby, and she threw up, and she actually choked on that, and she died. And I remember it affecting my 4th grade teacher so much that when she talked to us about it, it stayed in my mind. And so therefore I never could make myself throw up, no matter how much I wanted to. I just couldn't do it. So, from that time, as about a 9-year-old girl, I started having a lot of problems dealing with food. and I would watch anything that came on TV about food. I would listen to any program that had anything to do with eating disorders. I was actually, I just thrived on watching and trying to learn what I could. And no matter what I did, I could never stay away from food enough. I constantly, in my mind, failed and kept turning back to eating more and more. So whatever I had lost, I would gain. I would gain back it plus more. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that and how my life from then till now just kind of, we let ourselves be set up for either failure or success. And I just want to put this out there. I don't want it to be a trigger for anybody that's suffering with an eating disorder, but I also want people to know that it's not only anorexics that suffer or bulimics or any of those. There's also girls out there, exactly the way that I was, that had problems with overeating and had problems with staying away from food, and you constantly in your mind are putting yourself down. You don't feel worthy. You can't get as thin as your friends. You know, you just constantly knock yourself down. You're your worst critic. And I just want people to know that I never seen shows about people that were like me. All I ever seen were shows about people that chose to starve themselves and sometimes to death. And I heard about all of the things that can happen when you're anorexic, and how when your body gets naturally cold and how you actually get like a downy fur on you and all the things that happen. But I never remember watching or hearing or learning as a young person about overeating or what you can kind of help do. But it's there. I never knew of anything other than I would hear about fat farms, you know, things that you could send your kid to when they're obese or needed exercise. But I never heard about a program like, you know, you put an anorexic into the hospital, and I understand they're in special hospitals because they have taken themselves all the way to where there's nothing left and their body is actually eating itself, and they are near death, and a lot of them do die. But what about the people that have struggled their whole life? Why haven't we heard about any type of a program that would help maybe us? We kind of feel the same thoughts in our heads about not feeling good about ourselves, about being too hard on ourselves. All of the things that I have heard, only they're on a different wave path. It's like our brains are so similar side by side, but they take separate little loops, and they're both problems the way that I see it in my mind. And I just want there to be more public knowledge about girls the way that I was. I didn't choose to be heavy. And as small as I was, I never was a small woman or girl. I never felt, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed always about my weight. In 6th grade, I remember, which points me, I guess, sooner than what I even realized. Just things popping into my head now. But in 6th grade, I remember going to SeaWorld. It used to be in Ohio, and it's not there anymore. But our school went, and I had 2 best friends, both of them named Debbie. And I remember going and thinking that I looked fat, chubby. And I don't even remember what I wore that day, but I remember everybody getting in line to climb up on these big rope things, sort of like on a ship. And all the kids were going up there, and before we were all in a line, and they were all running and going ahead as the person that was standing in line was letting them go. I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to be too fat. They're not going to let me on that. And looking back at myself, I wasn't fat. I was a big girl, But I never had a big belly or anything. I was bigger than my friends, taller than my friends. But it breaks my heart as an adult to look back, to know how I felt about myself back then. I wish that I would have had somebody that would have noticed and said, go have fun with your friends, you know. I wouldn't even go up there to have them wave me past to go because I was afraid I wouldn't be allowed. So I remember going over and just sitting on a bench waiting on my friends to get done. I don't know if there was a scale. I don't know if there was, I have no idea in my mind at that time what made me so afraid. But I wouldn't go. I just went and sat on a bench and waited for them. Wow, and that all just came rushing back in my memory, and it must have happened a lot of times before for me to feel that right now. When I was in 6th grade, I remember that day. I remember all through junior high and high school taking diet pills, and you could buy them over the counter. I took the extra strength Dexatrim. I took them all the time. When I was in high school, I had friends that would call me Speedy because they actually were like a speed. They would make you jittery and full of energy, and you know, you would burn a lot of calories on those. And I remember my mom would buy me those little, I can't remember, it seemed like they were called AIDS. But they were little square, I think they were like a caramel taste. And you would eat those, several of them, before a meal, and they were to aid in you not eating as much. But you know, now I think back on all that, and it's like, gosh, no wonder I have heart problems. You know, I took whatever I could take back then to help speed up my metabolism, is what I thought. But yeah, after I finished my 11th grade year, my oldest brother was in the Air Force, and his wife was expecting their first child. And they lived in Delaware, Dover, Delaware, and they came home to Ohio to visit. And somehow it got to where I decided that I would love to go back and stay with them for a while. I was in a relationship with a guy that I really didn't care for, and I felt like I was being pushed into settling sort of with him, because he was a good guy and he was a good Christian guy, and I just felt like I just needed to get away. So my brother and his wife were like, well, come stay with us for a while. So I did. And when I got there, I ended up finding a babysitting job, and I took care of 2 little boys, and I was gone a lot. I stayed over at their house. That's where I watched them at. And me and their mom became really good friends. All day long I would go without eating, but I would stop on the way to their house to get me a donut. And I still had a sugar addiction, and I remember every day eating a donut and a Mountain Dew, and the donut was just one of the regular round ones, and it had chocolate filling in it and chocolate on top, icing on top. And I would eat that one donut all day. That's all I would eat. And I did that for, I don't know, for a long time. For at least a month, maybe 2 months, a long time. And I think my sister-in-law or my brother noticed how much I was losing weight. And so they started wanting me to eat better at home. So I would eat a small meal at home, and then that would be all that I would eat. And I don't know how large I was when I started, but I'm thinking around about 165 pounds maybe. I don't really know. But when I was staying with my brother, I got down to about 130, 135. And my hip bones had started showing, which that was the first time that I ever remember my hip bones showing, and I loved it. And I wanted to continue on. Well, I ended up having to come back home to Ohio, and I've just started eating again. And of course gained that weight back. So that kind of started my yo-yo dieting. I have actually been on almost every single diet that anybody has ever mentioned. I've tried. I would lose weight, gain it back. Lose weight, gain it back. Just back and forth, just like the thing's called a yo-yo dieting. That all of my life was up and down. It's really, really hard on you emotionally and mentally and physically. It's really, really hard on you. And so this brought me back to today. I was watching, like I said, videos and TikToks and all that about, there was a girl on there that is anorexic and she's fighting for her life. And it brought back me watching all those shows. And I actually followed a lady that was on YouTube. Well, it's probably been a couple years now. And she ended up dying. I think her name was Terry. And she starved herself to death until where her heart and everything started giving out. And but today watching that young lady, and I was thinking, she was talking about her mental health, and I thought, you know, we're not really that different. We are kind of the same. We each had the same thoughts in our lives and not feeling worthy. And, you know, I started thinking, what causes that? You know, where do we get that from? It seems like people remember negative things more than they do positive things, and that's what bothers me. That's what I want to get, I guess, I want to get to understand why we do that, or why maybe it's a mental illness, and not everyone does that. But I know that I have. My whole life I have. I have had very low self-esteem. And even when I would have someone tell me that I looked really pretty, I never believed it. Never believed it. And until to this day, when I look back on how I was as a child, I think to myself, gosh, I was a pretty little girl. Why didn't I feel that? You know, I never felt good about myself. And I remember an uncle of mine that loved my baby sister, and he was always talking with her, and he would say, about how pretty she was, and oh, there's my girl, and you know, and it's like, why did that affect me? I should have been happy, you know, that my little sister was loved, because I loved her, but yet I never felt as pretty. I never felt as good. I never felt as smart as anybody else. And it's like, I wish that I would, if I could go back and talk to myself, oh, I would just say, Nina, you're good enough. You are good enough. And you know, you don't have to change to please anybody. And that way, if I felt like if I wanted a candy bar, I could have had a candy bar. Instead of beating myself up for eating the whole thing, you know. I want to be able to help somebody. And I want to help myself. I want to go back and you know, and try to think to myself, what could I have done differently to not cause myself to have such a yo-yo life when it came to dieting? We adopted 3 girls, and I had 4 teenagers at home. And I was heavy, and I was very tired all the time, and I was working over 40 hours a week most weeks, and coming home, and what the kids didn't help do, like, you know, housework or laundry, I would finish, or if they didn't cook, I would cook, you know, because they were a big help. But I had started another diet program, and it was actually a limited eating program. You limited the food that you ate. Okay, there's different dieters and different things that people do. Like some people like to eat whatever is, for instance, whatever your husband would fix for dinner, or whatever you fixed for your family for dinner, they would be able to eat just a little bit of each of those things and feel satisfied. Well, me, I'm the type of person that I always did better if it was very, very few choices. And if I would eat those same choices every day, I felt like then I could control myself. And if I got a taste of something sweet, it would almost like do me in. I would fail. And so I joined that diet where it was kind of a limited amount, and you went and talked to them all the time, and you had to keep a food journal and all that. And I lost 105 pounds very, very quickly. Probably in 3 to 4 months. Very, very quick. And boy, did I feel great. I really did. I felt great. I felt in control. I felt like I was on top of the world, that I had finally figured out how to maintain and feel good about myself. We went on vacation, and we're gone for a week, and on vacation, I knew exactly what it was that made me go right back into my mindset. I felt good. I looked good. I was sitting on the couch in the condo, and the kids were eating breakfast. And instead of me having an egg, maybe a piece of toast, I thought, hey, I'm on vacation. Why don't I try a bowl of cereal? Well, see, Nina has a problem with cereal. It's not just one bowl of cereal for me. It's going to be until that box is gone within a couple days, or it's going to be, I'm going to sit with at least 2 bowls of cereal. I'm not going to be able to stop with just one. That was my addiction, I guess. Once I started, I felt like I couldn't stop. And I took some cereal out in a little bowl, not even added milk. I thought I'll just eat a couple pieces of that sweet cereal. It was Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'll never forget it. And that little bitty bit, 105 pounds. And felt so ashamed. And like I had wasted money and time. And so I just kept joining and failing and joining and failing. And I did that at that same exact diet center probably 4 times, 5 times. And then I wonder now why I have so many health problems that I do. I'm sure it all probably came down to what I was doing to my body. I'm a type 2 diabetic. I take about 3 to 4 insulin shots a day. I have high blood pressure. I'm on 2 different medications, well actually 3 right now for that. I have had open heart surgery, triple bypass. I've had a heart attack. I have osteoarthritis, degenerative disease in my bones all throughout my body. From my neck, my spine, lumbar, knees, hands, everywhere. I have struggled with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome for many, many, many years. And how do I fix myself? I've been on YouTube for over 3 years now. I've tried to do a diet format to where that I would have people back me, and I would do good for about a week, and that would be it, and I'd be done. I've tried all of the healthy things. I've tried all the unhealthy things. I did the plant-based. Felt really good doing that. But as soon as I got a taste of something normal, I'd fall off that wagon. So I'm trying to figure out for myself. And in doing so, if I can help somebody else, it would be amazing. But if you've struggled the way that I've struggled my entire life, if you found the way and it worked for you, bravo. But it doesn't mean it's going to work for me. I've got to figure out Nina. I've got to do this. You know, I've prayed many, 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 many prayers for the good Lord to help me get control over this, because it has led my life if it wouldn't have been for this, I wonder what I would have become. You know, I love photography. That was a passion of mine. And I got to where, from being fat, that I couldn't even get down to do the shoots that I wanted of little kids sitting in the grass or anything like that. The last picture shoot I did was for one of my best friends, her son's graduation pictures. When I got done, I couldn't hardly move for days. I had exerted so much energy that I had to take days to just do nothing. All because of my weight, which has, I believe, made most of my health problems. Without that yo-yo dieting and without getting to where I am now, would have my heart been as bad? I don't think so. I really don't. You know, I used to be, when I was young, active. This was before getting on all the diet pills and stuff. I was always in track. I did gymnastics. I played softball. I played basketball. You know, I loved any type of a sport, and my favorite was gymnastics. And I can't do anything. I can't even hardly walk now. I just went yesterday shopping just a tiny bit into a place where we made ceramics with my sister, her two daughters, and my great niece. And I was on medication because of my bones have been so bad. They put me on something for 10 days to get the inflammatory and all that down on my body. And I was able to walk and enjoy the day for the first time, you guys, in so long. Years. I haven't been able to do anything. So not only has all of this conjured up all these memories in my head, it also has made me started to think, my life, I've not had a life for a few years. I've not been able to hardly walk. And you guys don't know, you see 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes in a video, and you think that you know me, but you don't. You don't see me walking with my cane through the house or a walker. So this has gotten me to a point in my life where I've got to take control of my problems. I don't expect to ever be a thin person. But I never expected that I would ever weigh what I weigh now either. When I was a little girl, I had an aunt that was always large. And I remember, oh my gosh, I remember hearing people in my family talk about her, how big she was. And you know, I found pictures not too long ago of her, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a lot bigger than she was. And if they were talking about her, I can only imagine what's been said about me. I didn't even go to my family reunion last year. Do you know why? Somebody said on Facebook, one of my cousins said that they were wanting to lose weight and they were afraid of this and that, and they're not near as big as me. And I wrote and told her, I said, don't you think that people would love you and want to see you no matter what you look like? See, that's what I was thinking, that I wanted to see all of them. I don't care how big or skinny they had gotten or how scarred up or tattooed or whatever they were. I just wanted to see family. But I couldn't get myself to go after that, because those old voices back in my head came and said, you'll just be the laughing stock of the family reunion. You'll be the one they remember as, man, I can't believe how fat Nina got. So I couldn't go. So I let that voice once again talk me out of something that could have brought a lot of joy. What if I never see them again? What if they never get to see me again? Because see, you know, I'm a nice person. I try to do things in my life that will bring the Lord glory. And I really, honestly do try to live my life this way. So I kind of cheated them out too. They haven't seen me in a very, very, very long time. And I would have loved to sit and talked and chatted with all of them. And because of my self-hatred, I didn't do it. So I thought, maybe, just maybe, If I came clean with myself, if I came clean with my struggles, and I told the world, I guess, of how this started when I was in elementary school, maybe before, that I'd be able to help myself, that I'd be able to help Nina. I don't know if it will work. I really don't know. But I do know that in this coming year, 2022, I'm going to be 58 years old in February. Now or never, I guess, right? I don't know, guys. I'm scared to death to start. Them voices in my head are saying, you're not going to do it. You might do it for a month. You're going to fail again. They're back there, and I can honestly feel it and hear it going constant back and forth. But you know, there's also a voice in there that says you can do anything through Christ, which strengthens you. So yeah, I want to get healthy. I'm going to start trying. I'm not going to say when. I just know I want 2022 to be a year, not a month, or 2 months, or 3 months of getting it together. I want it to be my year. My year of getting my life in order. And if I only would happen to lose 10 pounds, whatever it may be, if I can gain back the ability to move, to clean my house, things that I have not been able to do good for a very long time, you guys. It would be a miracle. It would be such a gift to myself. And if we can shut those voices up that are telling us all that negative stuff, or at least quiet them, we can help each other. So I'm going to start this, and I'm not even going to call it a journey. I'm not calling it a diet. I'm not calling it anything. It's just my life. And I want to take control of my life. You know, I said, after the last time that I failed on a diet, I said, well, I'm going to go whenever God wants me to go. So if I'm huge or if I've lost weight, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to go whenever God calls me. But do I really want to go with the weight that I'm at now? It's one reason I want to be cremated, because I wouldn't want anybody to have to carry this body. And that is the honest to God's truth. So I'm going to have a lot of things that I'm going to be talking about. A lot of things that I'm going to be sharing about myself. About myself, nobody else. I'm not blaming my mom. I'm not blaming my dad. I'm not blaming my beautiful family. I'm blaming Nina. I'm blaming myself for allowing myself to keep that negativity in my brain all these years, when instead of dealing with problems that I've had, instead of facing them, I've turned around and ran, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to. I've earned this age to take control of some things in my life that have caused me pain. Things that I have allowed in my head, I'm not going to allow them there anymore. They've taken up residency, they think. I'm not going to let them stay rent-free anymore. I'm going to try my best to pray and to ask God to give me things to fill my mind with His love and peace and get out the negativity in my brain. You know, one reason that I haven't been going to church like I did, for years I never missed a church service. Never missed one. And now I look for excuses, and that is God's truth. I'm just being honest. I look for excuses because I don't want people to see how big I've gotten. And yet I sit here on camera in front of over 1,000 people, and you all see it. You all see it. So yeah, we're going to see what happens, you guys. You're welcome to come along with me, and we'll help each other some way. So join me, pray for me if it comes to your mind, and you know, what will be will be. But let's have 2022 be the year that we take back our lives. God bless you all. I love you all. And I'll see you real soon. Take care.